Well, good evening. Hello there, Cobb. Good to see you. Hopefully Majenko and friends will be along shortly. There we go. There is a Majenko and 8 raiders. Oh, I forgot it doesn't do TTS on that. My bad. Yeah, 2 Chloes as well. Excellent. That's what we like around here. Good evening, Matt. Right, so boo to you too, Majenko, and hello, Swarm. Encore indeed, Matt, because we are back on the LA50 because the replacement IC arrived yesterday. So we shall try that out and see what happens. Chloe, birthday Chinese food sounds good. If it isn't your birthday, then happy birthday, and if it isn't, then enjoy the birthday food anyway.
The Industrious Sand just resubbed for 2 months. Always in town for the boogie down.
Oh, thank you for the resub there, the Industrious Sand. It's most appreciated. So, we shall get on with putting the chip in place, but first we want to actually make sure it works, because it's a cheap one from... Okay. Oh, well, happy birthday then, Chloe. Working in London, that's bad enough at the best of times, never mind on your birthday. So we want... Let's have a look. Dated 91/12. That explains why the print is quite nice on it and actually legible for once. But since it was a sort of £1.50 eBay special, let's pop them in the TL866.
A Swarm of Dead Insects has gifted a sub to Matt_rings.
Thank you for the gifted sub there, Swarm. That's also most appreciated. Oh no, a hype train. Hype train and an ad break imminent. So, let's bring up the old thing with the thing. We want item, that one there. And we ideally don't want it right in front of my face, we'll put it down there. I think there are those that would say it would be better right in front of my face, but we shall run the mini pro command. Logic test failed. This is not good. Have I done a silly and ordered the wrong part? It says 74LS257 on it. Have I put it in upside down? I have put it at the wrong end of the thing. Haha, there we go. We shall attempt to engage brain before we do this in future. There we go. Logic test successful. So we have a good chip. It is always time to make a pot of tea around here, Matt. Yes. No, I didn't nuke it. I'm an idiot. Putting it upside down wouldn't have hurt anything because it wouldn't be driving anything at that end of the ZIF socket anyway. But even if I had nuked it, there were 2 of them. So it would simply have doubled my costs. But if you'd like to test, we'll test the other one. And make sure they're both good. Yeah, both good. That's fine. So yeah, the reason I ended up putting it in the wrong end is that I'm not used to having the USB cable sticking out the top because it's just the cable's too short to put it where I would usually put it. So never mind. So into the board it needs to go. Up here. And it turns out I did some little good evening, Carrot House. Just this guy, you know. I did some belling out of the board to figure out what was going on. And if we check, or to see what was happening with the proximity switch, the cover interlock, which comes in up here somewhere, and that actually runs over to this chip somewhere there. So this is an that chip is an 8155, which is a 256 byte RAM, I think, and a bunch of GPIO and a timer and some other bits and pieces. So the missing mux wouldn't have affected the front cover interlock, but what it would have affected is this. If we look at one of the inputs to it and probe where it's coming from. Not that input. That input. Oh, that's the select input anyway. But one of these, it uses that chip to read the front panel. So without that in there, I presume it thought I was holding down all the buttons of power on, and it was getting horribly confused as a result. So we'll just pop this chip in. I would usually fit a socket. Oh, actually, maybe I can get away with a socket. I thought there wasn't going to be room. Let's have a look. There's the dip switches. Because there's a transistor in the chassis above where that spot on the board is. But since there's this recess, I think I might have enough height there to fit the socket. So give me 1 second and I shall find some sockets. I see chat is up to its usual erudite standards. Now we're on to underwear, are we? Sockets. There's a tube of sockets down here somewhere. It's just a question of whether they're the right sockets. Sockets. Hooray, they are 16-pin sockets. Or, more importantly, 16-pin sockets for a 16-pin chip. So, happy days. I also took the opportunity earlier to attempt to blow as much mouse detritus out of this as I could before my air duster ran out. So hopefully it's a bit cleaner now. Just gonna check the board looks okay too. Yeah, should be fine. Damn it, pushed a pin out of the socket already. That's exciting. Tweezers. Where are the tweezers? Good evening, Sleepy. You are right to use the ones that are on the silk screen. I use different values for mine because they are driving white LEDs rather than standard ones on the back plane. So I just followed the instructions for the Pro Pride kit, which say ignore the silk screen and fit something different. Just catching up on chat. I'm somewhat worried that you qualified that with most, Chloe. Don't know whether I'm happy with what I've done to that socket. There must have been some obstruction in the PCB, but it seems to have got. No, that's wrecked it. So we have some desoldering to do before we can fit it. Let's get some of this out of the way. 1 second. And we need the solder wick. Where's the solder wick hiding? There it is. That didn't go at all well. Right, that'll do. Where are we? There. That big one. This is no good. I need a better angle on it. So I'm afraid now you are not going to be able to see, but that's nothing new around here, is it? So. That's I've lost that. So this side, that's why I couldn't find it. Right, we'll try that again. What's wrong with this? As you can tell, I'm not having the most coordinated of days today, folks. And that port is not taking solder either, so we need to find a flux pen. That's a flux syringe. Oh, we'll have to use the paste flux because I can't see the flux pen immediately to hand. That should more than do it. He says over optimistically. God blimey, hang on. Sorry, I just want to extract some of those fumes. That was a bit overexciting. And we shall just give it a blast of the old flux remover, so give me 1 second, folks. Keep the tripod, always good. Right. So where were we? We were about to fit this chip, weren't we? And I've left some globs of kitchen towel on the board. Excellent. Should do the job, so let's pop the chip in. Socket's into a mess now, never mind. And then we get to put it all back together and hook up the oscilloscope. So, base first, don't we, down here? Excellent. So that's right. Let's go on with this. Which order do we want to do these in? I forget. That one has to go in from the top. As does that one. That comes over the top to the serial port, chassis ground. That's this end, that's... Where does that go? That goes there. Was for the 5-volt transistor. Where did that go? There. Those are the carriage drive transistors. Those go there. Maybe we can get the printhead cable in from this side if we try. No, not easily. Something to hold those out of the way. Where is that? Right. No, you cannot get that in without extra long fingers, I imagine, and maybe an extra set of joints. So from the other side it'll have to be. Oh, that goes on there. Power connector goes up here and is thankfully asymmetrical, so you don't have to worry about it. Now it isn't fitting in the chassis. Why not? Have I Right, that was the printhead cable sticking out. That was the problem. Right, excellent. Now we just need to find the screws. The screws, he says. Which were here earlier today and have disappeared. Excellent. Nope, that's ribbon cable, that's some Cisco brackets. Yeah, they are LA50 screws, you see. I had enough brains to label them at least. And that ground lug goes over here, doesn't it? Now with that done, we just have to attach the print head and the front panel. So print head goes down like that. One day I'll take the lid off my star and show you how these can be designed in such a way that they're actually maintainable. That get in there. Right, I think that's connected. And the front panel. it straight on the damn thing, will ya? No, you won't, will you? You are going to make me sweat for this. Oh great, there's a bent pin on the connector. No wonder it's not going home now. Great. There we go. Right. Well, I hope this at least shows as much as many signs of life as it did before we started dicking around with it, because otherwise I should be most annoyed. We are currently at slightly annoyed, for reference. Right, that'll do for now. Let's pop the cover on so that the interlock sensor has something to read. Right, and shutters off. Flashing fault light. Well, that's no good, Swarm. Sorry to hear you having to put up with the old adverts. Okay, so we stop and we think here because it is now unhappy. What's going to make it unhappy? Make sure that ground lug is on securely. It was making contact, I'm sure, but okay, that's all good. Again. Ah, it might be unhappy without paper, mightn't it? That goes straight to just a solid fault indication. Let's that's all we get out of it. So that's no good. Let's have a think. Yeah, it's not responding to any of the key presses that are supposed to bring it up, Swarm, unfortunately. Good evening, RF. Hope you're doing well. Oh, I don't know why the yeah, it's not showing up anywhere that you got yourself a fresh sub there. So I'm sorry, I don't know why it missed that. I'm going to blame Twitch. Right, so what can we do from here? We can I suppose we can double check all those connections on the main board again, can't we? Which means taking this sod off again. What's the most likely? The most likely one not to be connected is the print head. So we'll just turn it over and see what we've got under here. Indeed, Swarm. So it could be that I've cocked up soldering that chip in, perhaps. We'll double check that. So lift this up from here. Transistors. That is paper feed, I think. That's front panel. That's expected to be missing. That's interlock switch. Okay, yes, I did have the print head connected, so it can't be that. Aha. Turns out you might have to connect that one first from this side. Volt transistor, and that is God knows. Right, I don't see any obvious issues. Just going to catch up on chat quickly. Okay, so let's inspect quickly the joints on the chip I've just replaced, in case I've mucked that up, and all the joints where I've tacked at one of these wires down for testing, in case I've accidentally bridged something. And since that's the only rework I've done on the thing, if those don't throw up any clues, I am kinda stuck for ideas. So let's make a loud clicking noise. Oh, that was just the paper mechanism, never mind. And grab the magnifier. So we'll start with that chip there. Obvious problems. Right, so where did all these debug points go? That one looks fine. That one looks fine. Those two are those three are marginal. There's one that's shorted to ground. Ha! Right, so what's that on? That feels like it's on the inverter for the motor drive. It is. One, two, three, four, and 5. Oh, the one that was shorted to ground is just ground. Right, never mind then. Right, that wasn't much help, was it? I'm going to redo a couple of those anyway, I think, just to be on the safe side. Okay. So what else might be an issue? The top cover interlock was the other thing that could be. Oh, good evening there, Mike Trader. Good to have you with us. Yes, good old-fashioned FX888 with the knob on it. I understand the new digital one is better than the old digital one, but mine still has the knob. So, right. So that is. Yeah, safety interlock. That's what we'll look at next. Make sure that I know where that is supposed to be going. Let me see if I can find the closest thing we have to schematics for this thing, which are actually for an Apple. 67CN6. Let me bring that up so you can see what I'm talking about. Secondary. So here on CN6 we have the paper out detector. We have the interlock there, but they might have moved the interlock somewhere. Yeah, I think they moved the interlock somewhere else on this model because the American. Yeah, two of the 4 voltage variants have the same arrangement where the interlock is on the same connector as the left margin sensor and the paper out, and the European ones appear to have it on a different one. Right, so that's not going to help. Okay, we'll try and work backwards from what we have. It was one of the pins on the front panel connector because we traced it through the front panel last time, and we think it ends up at pin 23 on this 8155. So let's see if we can work that out. So pin 25 will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there. No, it is one of these though. I found it the other day. There we go. So pin 26 to CN2 pin 13, 12. And then I think it was 11 was ground, wasn't it? Or the other end of the switch, which goes nowhere. Okay, but 13 goes to ground. Okay, so it just grounds that switch. So it can't be a pull-up resistor that's dead because that would be internal to the 8155. Well, I'll tack down a probe lead to that signal anyway, so that we can try our best to figure out what's going on. if I can find my spool of wire. There it is. And wire clippers. Right, and it was the penultimate pin on CN2, which we've already got the right limit switch on that connector, so that's fine. Remember which end of the board I'm supposed to be working on. This end, yep, so there. So I'm going to do this off camera so I can see what I'm doing, I'm afraid. Should be okay if I can find the nope. Should do it. Right, so now we get the fun of putting it all back together again for the umpteenth time, and hoping for the best. So let's try starting with the print head this time and seeing what happens. Print heads in. 5-volt transistors in. Whatever that weird pile of stuff is. Is not going in. Why not? No, because there's a capacitor bent over in the way. Splendid. Okay. Oh, that's the right. That's the off-board power transformer. Right. Okay. That's the 5 volts. That's the print head. I think it's the left-hand carriage sensor and paper out switch. Over here, that is paper advance if it'll go on. Where's the power? Okay, so it turns out that is the way to put it back together. Put the cable through to the print head on, sort of in the middle, because it's over here somewhere. After dealing with the power supply circuitry, and then try and feed it through, I suppose. Yes, all the connectors are keyed, and they're all, or as far as I can tell, each one is a unique pin count as well, so you just can't get them wrong. Unless you completely forget to connect one, in which case you can get them wrong. And that would appear to be the one concession they've made to not driving the service techs insane with this thing. Why are you not sitting flat now, you pain in the... Something's fouling it. because I'm beginning to suspect I don't particularly care what. I'm just going to bolt that corner down and hope for the best. And finally the ground cable. I suspect this is not actually particularly important. It's probably just to stop electrostatic discharge through the front panel buttons, but since they're dead anyway. I mean, you could be forgiven for asking the question, Mike Trader, certainly. This thing has foxed me. It doesn't help that we don't actually have schematics to go from for it. Because it was a OEM thing. Deck bought it from CITO and had a custom, or moderately custom firmware load on it. Right, so that's what was fouling it earlier. The printhead cable is stuck there. Right, okay. It needs to go under this clip. But it'll do fine like that for the time being. Okay. We need the lid, or we need the front cover first. So that goes in there. Right, front panel went in a lot more easily than last time, that's good. Limit switch. Ideally we'd get this on properly, which is like that. Like so. Right. Where have I got? There it is. And just for good measure, let's pop the ribbon in case it's unhappy about that for some reason, but I can't see any I can't see any sensor for it, but you never know. And some power. Fault. Okay, so we still have the same fault indicator. Does lifting the lid do anything? No. It's oscilloscope time. So we should have ground on that corner. So ground over here. And let's try the cover interlock switch first, see what that looks like. Bent my scope probe tip, that's no good. Right. So that's the cover interlock, and this one is the right hand limit switch. So again, I don't like that the high level for the interlock switch appears to be ground. And the low level is -5. That suggests to me I've got my reference in somewhere completely the wrong place. But anyway, let's poke the limit switch and see what happens. Okay, the limit switch is working as well. So let's try the limit switch at the other end, which is this one up here, I think, isn't it? And again, that's yeah. So the limit switches and the interlock switches are all feeding the right or what looks sensible values back. So why does it not want to start at all? Let's look at some of the motor drive, just for a laugh. That one's B something or other. And where's the other one gone? So let's see if it's even trying to move the carriage. It could be that it's... Well, I don't see any obvious sign of it having any sort of current detection on the... Well, no, there is no sign whatsoever of it having any stall detection on the motor. Well, it's a stepper, it's not going to have stall detection. So... Press that and then press ready, wasn't it? Yes, we... Right, hang on. Let me put this back on its back and then I shall catch up on chat. 1 second, folks. So we can check the fuses. The fuses were fine on Friday, last time I looked at this, but we'll double check them. Good shout. We've worked through the troubleshooting checklist, and it, unfortunately, the symptoms always came back to the replace PCB suggestion, which is not hugely useful. Why am I getting... Here we go. Right, so there's one fuse. That fuse is fine, and that fuse is fine. So I'm pretty sure the 2 fuses are in that corner, and they look okay. So the question is whether my ground reference is where it should be. So it was that pin there. Yeah, ground. And where's there a convenient ground on here? That pin of the front panel connector. It's nowhere near ground. Okay, where else is there a good ground? There maybe? Yeah. Oh, right, yes. One, two, three, four. I'll put it on pin 8, not pin 7. Well, at least we've solved that mystery. Oh, you off RF. Good to see you. Catch you next time. don't imagine putting the scope probe across that will be the cause of the problem, but in fact, let's double check before I reattach it that it is going where I think it's going. So that should be ground. Yeah, that's ground. Is that ground over here? No, is that ground? That's the ground. Okay, good. So we want that one there. Right, so that's one mistake corrected. Oops, I've got to turn it the other way to get the power switch. So as I said, unlikely to make any difference, but let's give it a go anyway. No. Okay, let's consult the manual just in case I am forgetting something. So we want. Let's bring it up on screen so you can see it. Go, and we want not the operator information, troubleshooting, section 5, be down here somewhere. Right. Well, okay. Carriage doesn't move, indicators are off. Right, indicators are not off. Carriage does not move, indicators are 2, 5. Fuse 2 is open. Well, no, fuses are okay, we checked that. Fault indicator and flashes when power is turned on. Well, it's not flashing, it's steady. Printer does not start. Fault light is on. Pressing ready switch causes it to print one line. Defective paper out. So this is the symptom that we were trying to diagnose initially. Carriage moves to home position, then stops, and it starts making a very funky noise, which sounded like it was trying to drive the carriage and failing, which is why I've tacked probes down to the 4 phases of the stepper driver, so that we can try and figure out what it's actually trying to do. And having done that, it's now trying to do nothing. Operates with Okay, so we shall double check the self-test carriage motion. Press and hold, both form feed and line feed. Right, okay. Release the keys. Should go through a scanning motion, and it doesn't. Nothing happens. Internal self-test. This check tests the logic circuits of the PCB. It runs on when power is applied. The printing function is not energized during this test. Diagnostics include a checksum to verify all the bits of the ROM and a pattern test to exercise and verify all the bits of the RAM. If there is a failure, the fault light flashes. Oh, flashes, but it's not flashing. Okay, fine. Fault indicator. Stays on when out of paper. Right, and what was the normal self-test? Form feed and then release it. Where was that sheet of paper I had? I mean, line feed should work even when it's... Okay, so... That's getting us nowhere. 11 o'clock. Might have to wrap this up soon, folks, because I am rapidly running out of thoughts. I wonder if it's unhappy about the print head for some reason. When I say for some reason, I mean the fact that I've managed to pinch the cable between the chassis and the connector. Interesting. It can move that way quite happily. It's struggling to move that way. No change. Okay, let's... Well, we can at least double check the got it on a good ground reference now, can't we? Ground. So if we press this switch it should close and we get 0, yeah, okay. Well, at least we're getting 0 and 5 now, which is a bit better. And, I need to find a small magnet I can leave on the top so that we can leave that cover off. That would make life a bit easier. Do I have anything on the desk that might do the job? I do not. Oh well. So let's get the PCB out one last time and we shall double check those fuses, make sure I'm not missing one. Because the motors are driven from an the unregulated, I think it was 27 volt supply or something. So they do have a separate fuse, I think. So it makes sense that maybe that is. But again, there doesn't appear to be any feedback, so I don't know how it would know that it's driving the or failing to drive the motors if that were the case. But it could be. So power. Christ, the multimeter almost gave me a heart attack. Finding that was the print head that was a bit mangled up. Okay, right. So we have a pair of fuses. Interesting, hang on. Okay, right, fuse 1 and fuse 2, and then they've labelled the fuse holders individually. So FH3, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So I'll double check, fuse 2 is on the top. .08 ohms, that should be fine. And 0.11 on the other. So the fuses are okay at least. What else can we look at? I definitely put that chip in the right way round. Yes. I still don't like how crusty the board's looking in spots, but it was more alive than this previously, so crustiness wasn't an issue. Well, it was not a major issue anyway. Let's do some quick checks on some of these discrete rectifiers. Oh, that's a Zen, okay. Oh, it's not a rectifier then, it's a snubber network for the carriage motor. Never mind. What else could be? Would the paper out switch be a fault? Because it says it should attempt to print a line even when the paper's out. It should print a line when you press ready, and it doesn't, so it's probably not that. But we can check it anyway, I suppose. What else might we be looking at? We'll triple check the chip I installed earlier for any stupid shorts. No. So that must be a power rail, and that must be ground there. Let's check. Oh, there's a ground pour on the other side. Right, fair enough then. We could usefully check it for continuity though. So VCC is fine, ground is fine, and that pin should come up here somewhere. Yeah. Oh, two? What? Pin grounded. Balls. Okay, right. We've made an. That's an output, so that should be an input. Well, it turns out I was wrong to think that replacing that chip would help anyway. I was right the first time. It does only read the dip switches, as far as I can tell. It doesn't. The pin I thought was reading a button on the front panel is just grounded. So that means the CPU can detect whether that chip is installed, but I'm sure it's not doing that. Balls. I think we might have to call it here for the moment. Majenko, same problem that we had at the end of Friday. It just doesn't do a damn thing. It powers up and just lights the fault light and leaves it at that. No signs of life beyond that. Um, what do we have on here? So it's an 8085. And I presume it's got 2 ROMs. I don't much fancy trying to get those out to dump them, and even if we did, does anybody have ROM dumps to compare them to? Pair of RAMs, but I'm not too sure where to go from here. Yeah, no blinks. About the only things coming to mind, well, we could check the... If we can find the paper out sensor, we can check that. But I don't think that's the problem, because it should do its self-tests without, or some of the self-tests without paper. And we can check the motor voltage rail, I suppose. Where's that going to be coming from? That's... I'm going to find out what that chip I replaced actually does. Let's start probing some of its inputs. So pin 1 is there, pin 2 is a select, pin... No, 1 is select, pin 2 is an input. That's a dip switch. That's an output. That's a dip switch. Switch, output, ground, so on this side, +5 should be an input. Eh? What? What's pin 13, pin 15 on a 257? Oh, it might be output enable. Okay, right, never mind. Yes. Right. So then that would be a corresponding input. Okay, that's a pin on a switch. That's a pin on a switch. That's an output, that's an input. is a pin on the switch. Switch, output. Yeah, okay, so it is just reading the dip switch banks. Yeah, the 8155, I found the interlock input. It's on pin 26 on the 8155. Do you have a pin number for the paper out detector by any chance? Or did they not bother including that information? Let me see if I can find the paper out detector physically in the machine first. It's 5 volt resistor. No. I reckon it's on that one then. Is that the front? Yeah, that's the front. Left carriage sensor, right. So it must be on here somewhere. I think it'll come in on somewhere on CN6, probably pins 4 and 5. Pin 5 is ground, so pin 4 probably runs through via there. It's under a memory chip. Nice. Maybe 25. Interlock the 3 front panel controls paper out. Yeah. Okay, it could be that. Let's just see if I can locate sensor. What did I say? Pin 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 27, with 26 being the interlock pin. Yeah. Well, that's going to be a fun one to probe. What time is it? 20 past 11. I'll just very quickly tack down something to the paper out sensor, just so we can have a quick look at that, and then I'll give up for the night and have a think about how we can actually try and probe the 8155 in more detail. It's probably going to involve something nasty, because obviously we can't put a dip clip on it because we can't get to the top side of the board. So the nice simple probing setup we had on the VT240 won't apply. Yeah, that makes sense, Majenko. So ideally what we'd want to do is catch so it's logic analyzer time again, basically, isn't it? To I'll have a look, see if I've got any spare header strips, and then probe off the transactions going to the 8155 and see if they match what we think reality should be. So it's this one. Just end with pin 1. Yes, Pachenko, that might be a good idea. I don't. Well. Actually, no. I'm not using my brain there, am I? We can probe those in circuit with a dip clip as long as things not powered up, I would have thought. So I just need to come up with some contraption to connect it through to the 866 and well, it's something to do on a rainy day, isn't it? So we want 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. Oh, by the way, Majenko, I have been taking a look at the RS6000s, on which more later, but haha, you are definitely not getting my 240 from the office, but I'm telling you that now. You might get the 240 from the garage, but I can't tell you yet whether you will or not. So, what are we doing? We are putting the board in the right way round first, that will help. Feeding the printhead cable through so it doesn't get snagged this time. Just that's later, that's later, that's later, that one now. Oh hey, plugging the front panel in from this side is a hell of a lot more easier than plugging it in from the top. Who would have guessed? Right. And then on this side we've got to do that one. And finally some power. That's not power. That's power. Yeah, Majenko, I spotted that, but it also says that if it's out of paper, it should still print one line when you press ready. Whether that should do it in self-test or not, I don't know. But I wouldn't have thought it demands paper to run the carriage motion self-test, and it's not doing that either. But we'll find out. It could just be that it is stuck being completely out of paper, in which case, if that is the case, we can apply a crocodile clip to the underside and bypass the sensor, of course, can't we, and see what happens. And if that is the problem, then I shall say some very rude words. But I shall press the outro button before I say the very rude words. That Twitch don't demonetise me. And we'll drop a screw into the case. Excellent. Anyway, as for the RS6000 Magenco, no, all three of them have comprehensively wet themselves in that the power supplies are completely dead as far as I can tell. But you know, I mentioned that the 240 was available in a dual processor variant. Guess how many processors mine in the office has? Yep, Magenco, we checked that the sensor for the interlock is okay, and it is. So if the sensor's okay, then it could just be that the 8155 is not okay, which would suck. Okay, there we go. So what was it we were going to probe? We were going to probe the paper out switch, weren't we? That'll be that one. P out. And then ground coming from where's ground? Up here, obviously. Right, so we shall do that. Actually, let me double check that that's... Yeah, it'll do. So we have no paper in it at the moment. And we've got 5 volts. This is rather awkward. Come on, down there. Hang on, I'm going to have to be... It dropped to 0 there, not because it detected paper, but because I turned the power off, by the way. So let's load paper and see what happens. Aha! Right. Okay, so it thinks it's out of paper. Rather than try and fix the switch now, let's just short out the switch. Okay, folks, cross fingers. Fault. Fault. No, still fault. Hmm. Yeah, okay, I'm going to give up for the night because it is 25 to midnight and there are only so many hours of making no progress I can put up with. So, that printer is now thoroughly on... come on. Thoroughly on the naughty step. I shall have to think about next steps. It might be to, as Majenko suggests, start probing the 8155 in more detail. See if it is returning the correct data to the CPU when it's asked to check the state of the interlock and the paper out and all the rest of it, because it appears to be doing absolutely nothing, regardless of front panel switches or anything. So it could just be that the 8155's input port is dead or something. So we'll see if we can catch it in the act with the logic analyzer at some point, but I don't know when that'll be, because it's being a pain and I would rather do something more productive with my time. Speaking of which, on Friday I am probably going to be looking at an RS6000, maybe the one from the garage, maybe one of the ones from the office. They all have defective power supplies as far as I can tell, in that some of them make noises like they're trying to bootstrap the supply but never get there, and when you press the power button either nothing happens or you get a very very brief flicker on the power LED. Luckily I think the power supplies are easily replaceable, unlike the ones in my AS400. It's just a standard ATX supply with, well, it's not, it's an AT supply with 3.3 volts. So the motherboard connector is a standard AT, is it P8, P9, and then it's got a P7 as well with a 3.3 on it, which is a bit strange, but yeah, we'll either try and take one of the, well, no, on Friday we'll try and take one of the power supplies to bits, see what's inside, and if there's anything obvious wrong in there. If not, then we'll look at making a wiring harness for an ATX supply. The problem is I would rather work out how to fix it because I've got 3 of them, all with the same fault, all with the same power supply. So building 3 wiring harnesses is unpleasant. So that's probably going to be Friday, 6 o'clock as usual. In the meantime, thank you all for joining me. I hope this, well, this was obviously calamitous. Hope it wasn't too dull while it was being calamitous. And I shall catch you next time. Good night, everybody.